Ooh, ah. Hello. With the body this far along, I'm going to need to make the neck next, otherwise I don't know where to position the bridge, pickups, or even what to do about the neck pocket. Also, it's going to be a 25.5-inch neck. No, it's not. The scale length is going to be 25.5-inch. In the first video, I was musing over ideas, and the idea of a multi-laminate neck seemed to be the most favourite in the comments. So I'd already started one. Ta-da! So let's see how I got this far. You still here? So basically you would start with your neck blank material. This is a recreation. You need 3 splices, and I have a splice template. You can generally fit this on a normal size neck blank. So I'm going to interrupt this proceedings to say that I didn't come up with the technique myself. It's what I learnt from Lewis at LT Custom Guitars. So I claim no credit. So you take your neck blank, and you would stand right in front of the camera. So yeah, we take the spline template, which is oversized. I can't remember if I said that. So after glue up, there's room for sanding and final shaping. But yeah, on a single neck blank, you would be able to get the 3 splines. You might spend more time laying it out than that than me, because this isn't for real. And also, you don't need to care too much about having this amount of meat on the heel if you're just going for a flat neck rather than a tilted neck. We are going for a tilted neck, so in this case. So one advantage of this actually is you can buy a flat sawn board or rift sawn, one where the grain isn't necessarily going the direction you want, and we can't see anything there. And I don't know if you can see at the end here, after cutting this out, the grain is then going to be this way up. Maybe I'll put a diagram on screen. Essentially, you're quarter sawing a very flat board, rather than buying quarter sawn boards and paying lots of extra money. Focus, damn it. Okay, so after you've marked your boards out, I think we can insert a very small montage now of me cutting boards out on a bandsaw. Except my blade on the bandsaw there was terrible, so I had to go quite wide of the lines. But after that, you would end up with your pieces. From here, it is a tale of 2 jigs. Let's first ignore the fact there's 2 sides to this jig. I was just experimenting doing a scooped headstock style neck. Anyway, so we're going to go for the tilted side. You would literally take your cutout spline. Here I have a fake one made of pine. You position it so it's just hanging over the edge. Clamp it in, and then run it through the router. Insert montage. It's not a montage, it's just a clip. This allows us to precisely get the flat edge you need on that side. Clips weren't tight, were they? And then for side B, the side B has exactly the right size in the gap here, whereas side A was loose, just so you had space to trim it off. Side B, you'd then clamp it in, clamp, 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 run that through the router as well. It was important to route different heights slowly. Where am I? Do it in 3 or 4 passes, otherwise you would get massive tear out and massive tears. If I had a spiral bit with a top, so if I had a spiral bit like this with a top bearing, this is top because the routers normally go downwards. except we often use them in router tables, so the top ends up at the bottom. But anyway, if I had one a bit like this with a top bearing, then I could probably do it in one pass, but that's not possible. I'm not entirely sure how you would get a top bearing on a spiral bit like this, because you'd have to kind of cut a groove around here and then teleport the bearing onto it. If I had teleportation, I'd be doing a lot more interesting. If I had some of the, what's it called? Thin flaky wood. Veneers. To kind of highlight in between, I would do that, especially if it was all the same colour. I don't, and also we have plenty of width here, so I don't need to worry about that. A note on the fretboard. For this project, I have a fretboard. It hasn't been radiused yet, but it has been slotted. It was very cheap off eBay. Like £20? It's not that cheap actually. I think Stu Mac and Guitars and Woods in do them that cheap. But anyway, I bought it. I'm going to use it. And this is why the guitar is going to be a 25.5-inch scale. Is it? Yeah, it is. I was going to work out what kind of scale it is if you chop it off at this fret. We don't want to know that, do we? It just occurred to me actually, I've got to make sure this gap to here is the right gap. I wasn't going to do a Fender style nut where you do a slot in the headstock. I was going to use the neck itself to put the nut. Here's one I made earlier. I want to make sure this gap from here to here is actually the right length, or if it's got space for a nut on it. Anyway, whittering on. If I'm not making sense, it's because it is 4 or 5 in the morning again. Anyway, so what I need to do next is to glue these together. Also, working with those jigs, it's very important to make sure your the line where the transition between flat and back takes place is constantly marked, so when you glue them back together again, we have a reference point. Something else important popped into my head then. What was it? Oh, I'm sure it'll come back to me. I had to spend a little time orienting these boards because things didn't go too well with the splices. There was sort of chip out here, and I'm just making sure that's going to be under the fretboard, because making guitars is all about hiding your mistakes, and that is true. It will be under the fretboard. And on this side, you see here where there was a slip, but that is going to be, again, out. That's going to be trimmed off, so not a problem. Whereas if that board had been here, it may have been a problem. Anyway, I do like going on. I've hung a bit of the OSB board off the edge of my bench and clamped it in place, so I can easily just clamp from both sides without stressing out, because it's going to be a glue up of many clamps, because I need to squeeze it together, but also on this flat edge, clamp it down to the board to get it as level as possible. So we're going to enter a dry run territory now. So that's why it's good to do a dry run, because I needed to cut a couple of what are these called? Cools, just to make sure this bit's pinched together where it's not flat against the board. Yeah. I need to wrap that in tape first as well. Okay, time to do the glue up. All done. And now I run and hide. No, I think we're all right. So we're all glued up, and the beauty of drawing triangles on things when you glue them up is that you can see how far they've moved. Well, we just have to see. That's where the transition hopefully should occur. But it will be cool. We can sand that in, buff it out. So shiny, the glue. Could you use glue as a guitar finish? Huh. Anyway. So I'm just evaluating the neck to see what we can do. Especially because we can see... No, we can't. We can see it shifted a bit during the glue up. That's fine, because by the time we sand this down and this down, we'll have re-established the apex here. Now on the back, there's some examples of really bad bandsawying. So I need to level that back as well, which is going to make it quite thin, but I can build that back up with veneers and stuff. Whether I do that on the back or the front, I don't know. I'm thinking the front because I've never got to deal with this transition here. Anyway, that's where we are. So first things first, I'm going to flatten out the top and the headstock. So I'll take the first router sled I ever made, and it's got a flat back. So I'm going to use this surface here. Now ideally your workbench would be a nice flat surface, but mine's not. So a note on sanding this, turn it over, sand, obviously. But there is a, what's the word I'm looking for? There's kind of a tendency to lean forward, and so you may sand that side more than this side. So I need to be aware of that. Maybe turn it around occasionally to counteract that a bit. Although if you're still leaning, you're going to end up with a weird twisty object. Anyway. So yeah, that hand sanding was a bit of a nightmare. So I went to more drastic measures, and now we're all nice and smooth. However, you can see how much... You can't really see, can you? Let me just draw it in. So, let's focus in. Where the angle of the headstock used to start was here. Or where it should have done on the glue up. So the amount of material I've had to remove to square this up was a lot. That's okay. Let's just see if there's enough space for the fretboard. No, there is. So we're looking at a 6mm nut, which is spare one here, and the fretboard. Yeah, that's fine. We still have enough space there. Plenty, in fact. What's say next? Yeah, I think it might look a bit weird, but I'm going to go for a 6-a-side headstock. 6-a-side? Yeah, 6-a-side. No, 6 on one side. Yes, the reason for that is because on the other side, this is one reason this neck was laying around ready to use for now, rather than going into a more sensible project, was these bandsaw marks here go quite deep. So if I put this 6 on one side headstock across here, we're just going to lose all that. Okay. The smaller side, if you can hear me through my mask, I'm going to need a little extra bit of wood on here to accommodate the ear. Now I'm going 3 aside, 1 aside, 7 aside, 8 aside. So this video has already got too long. So please join me in the next one where I have to do some really, really difficult thinking involving neck break angles. Involving working it out like a mathematician.